Hi, thanks for joining me and welcome back to the channel. So once again, I'd just like to thank all new subscribers. This channel seems to have gone a bit mad over the last couple of weeks. I've had hundreds of new subscribers and thousands of views. So that's all immensely cool, and thank you very much. If you don't already subscribe, please do. It really helps the channel, and click the like button. That also helps. And right, as I mentioned in my last video, what I want to do this time is actually return to the subject of record cleaning. And I've done a few videos on these before, and I'll put links in the description below, because it's kind of quite a series. And really it's been you know, best part of a year since the last one, and what I really want to do now is revisit the situation, you know, everything I've discussed, and sort of explain where I am now. Okay, so first of all, if you haven't seen it, I would advise watching the first one, Record Cleaning Part 1. I'll put a link up here, because there I kind of run through just my basic feelings on record cleaning, and there's so much contradictory information about this. Working in the hi-fi industry, I've worked for brands that make record cleaners, so I've sort of done the PR for various brands, some of which I've subsequently bought their machines and some I haven't. Funnily enough, the two machines I've got at the moment, the Loricraft and the Degritter, I've never worked for either of those brands. So, you know, I hope that sort of says something about, you know, kind of the integrity of what I want to say. Also I've got a, you know, kind of, my brain works in the realms of logic and science quite, you know, exclusively really. So there's an awful lot of claims made by, you know, if a manufacturer makes some sort of crazy claim, it'll always get my kind of, you know, heckles up, and I'll really want to dive down into it and find out, you know, separate the truth from the, you know, fairy stories really. Anyway, so just to very briefly recap, I don't want to sort of frighten everybody off by telling them you've got to spend thousands and thousands of pounds on record cleaning. You absolutely don't. But I would really recommend cleaning your records. Now, the simplest way is just with a carbon fibre brush. I'll insert a little photo here. But really, to give them a good clean, you want to do a wet clean. And the cheapest way of doing that is using something like the Spin Clean or Disco Anti-Stat. Personally, I prefer the Disco Anti-Stat because it uses like sort of a goat hair brush as opposed to the Spin Clean's felt pads. Now, you know, if any of this information has changed, because people do modify their machines, manufacturers update and modify their machines, so, you know, all of this is subject to change, and you know, everything I say is my opinion, okay? But I would really advise a wet clean, especially if you buy second-hand records. And as we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, many instances, the best version of a piece of music is going to be buying a second-hand LP of it, because the modern reissue is just, you know, it's taken from a digital source, or it's been remastered to death, frankly. So, you know, secondhand records have a real, you know, important place. And also, if you're going to buy them, you really want to be cleaning them. Now, as we sort of go through this video, it'll get more and more intense and more geeky. And it'll do that quite quickly, because but you know, those who followed my previous videos will kind of know where I'm going and where I'm coming from. So yes, I would definitely recommend wet washing, wet cleaning. If you're going to use a Disco Anti-Stat or the Spin Clean, they're about £50, $50 each. I would really recommend buying two and using having basically a wash cycle and then a rinse cycle, because I think rinsing is absolutely paramount. And if those really kind of interested, if you wait till the end of the video, we'll get back to quite the latest update to my process. And this is something that I got after back and forth with Steve Evans from Perfect Vinyl Forever, is a change to the rinsing protocol. Okay, going on from there, I looked into ultrasonics, and I got a HumminGuru and a Degritter, and at that point I actually went out and purchased a whole bunch of copies of the same album. I'm not the world's greatest Muse fan. I just went to my local record shop and said, I want to buy several copies of the same album. What have you got that you can do me cheap? Because they've overstocked basically, and they sold me. Well, I actually got 6 copies of these. I seem to have lost one, but there we go. But basically, I got these so that I could clean using each individual method over and over and over and over and over and over again, to see if I could see, to sort of magnify the trait, if you like, the sonic fingerprint of each cleaning process. And actually it was this one, disc 3, which was the HumminGuru clean one. I concluded at the time, I might have ruined it. It was sounding pretty awful. Now, there is an update on that, and I'm going to cover that now because it's quite important. From doing that video that I just linked to, I hadn't cleaned any of these records again. I just left them as they are. Now, there are manufacturers out there, hi-fi manufacturers such as Lin Products and Riga, who would advocate not cleaning your records beyond a light brushing, but using a stylus to clean the record and then clean the stylus. I mean, that is one approach. I don't personally think it doesn't sit well with me in the kind of the logic of using a stylus as the record cleaner. But that is their thinking, and there is no doubt that playing a record will clean it to some degree. The stylus fits the groove far better than any kind of brush or pad will. It won't get as far in as an ultrasonic cleaning, but it does fit the groove, and it does move stuff around, dirt, greases, and to some degree rake them out of the groove. Now, after playing these over and over the course of the last year, basically doing demonstrations, demonstrating those differences to visitors, and this is something that Steve Evans alluded to in the previous record cleaning video, that he was wondering whether in fact I have ruined the record, or whether the HumminGuru cleaning was causing an unevenness in deep sort of grease removal, mold release agent removal, those sorts of things. And as I played it more and more, the negative effects actually seemed to lessen. Now, just before doing this video, I gave the 2 in question, which are 3 and 4, the 1, 2 and 5 here are, again, just different versions, variants of cleaning. 1 is uncleaned, 2 is cleaned on the Loricraft only, 5 is cleaned using combinations of the processes, maybe a Loricraft, HumminGuru and then Degritter, for instance. But anyway, I went back and I played these again. Now, it's absolutely fair to say that the HumminGuru clean one wasn't a complete write-off. And this is had 25 cleans on the HumminGuru, okay? It was dark, and my initial feelings, a year ago, were that I'd pretty much erased the top end on it. It was dark, and it was a little bit messy, but it wasn't a write-off. Now, the one that was cleaned, had 12 cleans on a Degritter, number 4 here, was by far the best. I mean, it was cleaner, less messy, more layering, lighter, more space. You know, still the best by some margin. But what I wanted to do was actually see if okay, so how has that, you know, has what I did before permanently damaged it or not? So first thing I did is I gave the HumminGuru Clean one rinse in my current regime. Basically, it was one pure distilled water, no additives whatsoever, 6-minute cycle in the Degritter. Dried it, demagnetized it. I demagnetized every record before playing, just to sort of equal the playing field on my Fonoteek demag. And it was better than it was. Okay, so from that I can conclude that okay, the you know what happened with this excessive HumminGuru cleaning wasn't a permanent, or you know, it certainly wasn't completely irretrievable as a record. Okay, but I just wanted to revisit that. Now, the next thing I want to touch on is since my previous video where I was talking with Steve Evans, and I'll put a link up here, I have actually had quite a bit of interaction with him, and here we go. I want to show you this because this is how they arrive. So this is from Perfect Vinyl Forever, and if I just show you in here, you get very nice packing, and these are these disc keeper sleeves, and I've got a stack of records he sent me here, and we've actually had 2 batches. I've had 2 batches in from him, and what I want to talk about now are those. So, I mean, bless him, what an amazing thing to do. He went through some of my last videos and he sent a copy of the Sheryl Crow, okay, which, you know, I mean, okay, I'll put a link up there. That was my video on the Sheryl Crow. Phenomenal album, absolutely sounds beautiful. And also White Stripes UHQR. Okay, again, I'll put a link up here. And while we're on the subject, he also sent a copy of the Muse, but this is on black vinyl, so this isn't the same pressing as my one. It's different matrix numbers, all sorts of stuff. So it was interesting to listen to this, but it wasn't. I didn't do a direct comparison. The White Stripes and the Sheryl Crow, checking the matrix numbers, they're identical to mine, so I think it was valid things to compare. Now, when he first sent them over, he had cleaned them with his 4.0 process. So here we are. Here's White Stripes UHQR, and you can see here it's this is how he's, you know, when you send records to him, they come back in these sleeves. They're really nice. It's been cleaned with his a 4.0 archival process. Now, you know, we've got the same, let's have a look, Sheryl Crow, yeah, same here, 4.0, etc. Okay, and a whole bunch of other records, which I've, you know, listened to as well, obviously. But I wasn't absolutely knocked out with these. If we think of record cleaning in 2 ways, there's removing pops and rustles and sort of background noise, and then there's I think what Steve would call the sort of the record optimization, or the sound quality optimization. I'm not so sure I like that term. I think it's but it's, you know, it's basically the sound quality of the record, and for me, the reason I clean records more than anything is actually to remove veils and open up the sound, and so it's, you know, it's kind of a combination of the 2 factors that Steve mentions. But for me, the sound quality is actually much more important than the occasional pop or click or little bit of sort of crackle or something. Now, we had a deep discussion, about the sound quality of his 4.0, and it's very good. I mean, as I say, they are absolutely deathly quiet. There is no noise, So, I mean, okay, these are new records that he sent me, but there is no noise. It is very, very, very effective in that respect, and definitely better than I'm able to achieve with any number of processes that I can do. But it felt a little bit lacking in weight. The top end was a little bit muted. The cymbals and things were quiet. This is talking about the Sheryl Crow here, and on the White Stripes. It was very dark, but it was almost kind of like tied down and not dynamic. And that's. I'm not saying this is in comparison with my process, if you see what I mean, but without a shadow of a doubt, more effective at removing noise. Okay, so we had this conversation with Steve and about what it might be, and then he sent me a whole nother bunch of records. So what we've got here, let's have a look. Okay, gets a bit confusing here because this is, sorry, it's not the 1st of July. I'm reading American, aren't I? 7th of January, okay? 7th of January. So, then on the 18th of May, he sent me back another set of records, so another Sheryl Crow, another White Stripes UHQR, and another Muse record, and a couple of others too. But this is his 4.1 archival process, okay? And I had a listen to these, and without a shadow of a doubt, these sounded noticeably better to my ears than the 4.0. Now, you may ask, and I obviously did ask, what the difference is. And, it's Steve's got his own, it's his business. He wants to remain in business and not give all his secrets away. But what I did manage to glean out of him is he's stopped using ethanol or any form of alcohol, in fact, in his rinse. Whether he uses it in the washing stage, I don't know. I honestly can't say. Just to run through what the Perfect Vinyl Forever archival process consists of. The first stage is a deep soak in is archival, cleaning solution, followed by a clean water rinse, then a deep soak in his archival noise reduction solution, followed by a deep rinse, and then this is version 3, which is all there is on his website, the info of. It's followed by a 135 kilohertz ultrasonic cleaning cycle, rinse, and then an ultrasonic 220 kilohertz rinse cycle, and then is air drying. And I believe that the 4 and the 4.0, he's changed. I think the initial sort of soaks are probably the same, but the rinsing cycle he's definitely changed, and I think he's introduced an 80 and a 40 kilohertz step into that. So it's kind of like a cascading, and I think it's cascading down in frequency. So the last ultrasonic frequency that he uses is 40, but I might have that wrong. I think it either goes 220, 135, 80, 40, or it goes 40, 80, 135, 220. I'm not honestly certain on that. If you give Steve a ring, he may let you know. He may not. He may want to keep that secret. I don't know. But anyway, suffice to say, the 4.1 sounded noticeably better to my ears. It is much, much, much brighter. And it caused me to change my process. I've been asked quite a lot about this over the last year. So what I've been doing, I'm just going to pop these records over here out of the way, getting a bit overrun with LPs here. What I have been doing is basically I will get the first thing I will do is use Clear Audio Pure Groove, and I apply that with one of these brushes, and I do that on the Loricraft. I'll insert a couple of little clips here of the process, but I'll generally clean for between 30 seconds in each direction, so a minute in total, to 2 minutes in each direction, i.e. 4 minutes in total. What will dictate whether it's 30 seconds in each direction, or call it 1 minute or 4 minutes in total kind of washing with the Clear Audio Pure Groove, is how dirty the record is to start with. Now, it isn't just about visible dirt. When you hold this on the surface of a revolving record, and this is what I like about the manual process, right? When you hold this on there with the fluid on it, obviously, and you're just holding it in place. You're not pushing it down. But when you're holding it there, you can kind of feel the drag of the surface, and there is, without any shadow of doubt, some records have noticeably more drag. It's almost as if they're covered with like a very thin layer of goo, grease or oil, or some sort of something that doesn't want to come off easily. And that's why I use basically Clear Audio's Pure Groove as my first step in my cleaning process. And I do that on the Loricraft, and then I vacuum it off, and then I give it a rinse. And what I use to rinse is, so in this little bottle here, I've got 200 millilitres of pure distilled water, 50 millilitres of alcohol. Now, I'm using ethanol in here, and I tried that as a change from isopropyl. It's a lot more expensive, ethanol, and it's a lot more hazardous to keep, actually. Its flash point is very low indeed, so it's really quite a hazardous chemical. So although I've tried ethanol, I probably will go back to isopropyl. And then this has also got 0.05% ilfitol. So in here, 0.12 milliliters, okay? And I will give that a rinse with a separate brush on the Loricraft, and I'll give it 30 seconds aside. I think it's quite enough. Vacuum it off. Then it goes into the degritter. Okay, now that's basically the process that I've used for pretty much the whole of the last year. I will add, what I'm trying to do with this is basically, what is in here. I think, Clear Audio don't want to say, and I don't blame them. Very few people will give you the ingredients of their sauce, so to speak. I've tried Degritter's fluid. I've tried Keith Monk's fluid. I've tried, pretty much every fluid I've come across, TurgiClean, all these things. Some are better than others, I think, in terms of actually getting in there and dissolving greases and removing contaminants. But this is a happy medium for me. It's effective, but it's also, it rinses off really easily. Now, TurgiClean or Turgitol, I know, is a very kind of popular one, and I wouldn't mind betting that there's an element of that in here, okay? My experience with TurgiClean was it was very effective at dissolving these greases, and when I mentioned this, the feeling the resistance, you can actually kind of feel when you're getting through, with this brush here. It was super, it was super effective, but it took ages to rinse it off. It was really kind of, tenacious the way it stuck to the record. And I found it too much of a pain in the ass to rinse, really. And rinsing ultimately is critical, because it is vital that you rinse off everything at the end of your cleaning process, okay? But I just want to add in, there is As with Steve Evans's process, he has a, what does he call it? Deep soak in a noise reduction solution. So I use L'Art du Son for that, and I make this up. 5 ml in 250 ml is all you need of that. Now that I tend to put on with one of these little brushes here, tonal wet coat, and I'll really kind of massage it in. And L'Art du Son is a biological detergent. Basically, it smells like the sort of the stuff you'd wash your clothes with, do your laundry with, and that definitely needs a sort of a waiting period. So I would suggest you do sort of at least 5 minutes with this, then vacuum, then rinse. So if I'm going to do this, I would do it between. I'd remove any chemical greases and everything first with the Pure Groove. Then it's not always necessary. Much more with second-hand records, I'd use L'Art du Son, and then most importantly, rinse it afterwards as well. So it's this is a 5 minute, 10 minute maybe step I would put in the middle of very dirty used records to try and get away those sort of crackles and noises like that. But anyway, that's the sort of the vacuum process. Now you could do that. You could do that with a couple of spin cleans quite happily. Obviously, the vacuum removes the fluids, the dirty fluids much more effectively than just air drying. But you can get a good, you can do a good job with a couple of spin cleans, or better still, disco anti-stats, I think. And from there, they go into the degritter. Now, what I was doing was I have 2 tanks in the degritter, and this is my wash solution that I was using. So 80% distilled water, 20% ethanol, and 0.5% ilfitol. Now I still use that. So that's my kind of wash solution. And bearing in mind I've done all this and the L'Art du Son before going into the degritter. And the reason being is because the degritter, like the HumminGuru, like the KL Audio, like any of these kind of machines, they're basically a tank or a bath type machine. And you want to it'd be like if you've been playing a rugby match or something like that, you'd want to have a shower down before getting in the bath, just to get the worst of the mud off you. Because if you don't, you just turn the bath into dilute mud, and that's you're not going to get that clean. So that's why I do 90% of the washing, so to speak, before going into the degritter. But the degritter, the ultrasonic, and you can use other ultrasonic machines, I believe the degritter with its higher frequency works best, and that's why I did the experiments I mentioned earlier with the multiple copies of the Muse LP. But this is the sort of solution that I was using in tank 1 for my wash cycle, okay? And then this is the solution that I was, emphasis on was, using in tank 2, which is the same, but it's got basically a tenth, an order of magnitude less ilfitol in it. Just the very, 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 very minimum to aid drying, and that was my thinking there. But since doing the listening with Steve Evans's Archival 4.0 and Archival 4.1, and as I say, I believe he's changed his process to absolutely just rinsing in pure distilled water, and actually I think he mentioned removing alcohol entirely from the process. I mean, I'm still using alcohol in this solution, and it has to be said, Pure Groove has got an alcohol component in it too. So I'm still using alcohol, but what I'm not doing is using alcohol in the rinse. And when I changed from this in my second tank in the degritter to just pure distilled water, there was a there was basically a similar jump in sound quality to the difference between PVF 4.0 and PVF 4.1. So I am fully in line with Steve's thinking there, but also, Michael Fremer and various other people, especially users of the KL audio, who, absolutely stand by using nothing but pure water in their machines. Now, whilst I absolutely agree nothing but pure water for the final rinse is the best process, I do think that for actual cleaning, then, using a combination of solvents, detergents, biological detergents, and, according to the muckiness of the record, I think these really do make a difference, okay? So I'm just, I think that's probably about where I've got to be honest. I have noticed that the HumminGuru, they've got a HumminGuru Plus or something that's just about to come out, or has just come out, which gives a longer cleaning cycle option of up to 10 minutes, which I think is a good thing, because from my experience, you definitely, the minimum amount of ultrasonic time I would give something is 2 6-minute cycles in the degritter. That's 12 minutes. Incidentally, with the sort of the filling up, the emptying and the drying, those are about 10-minute cycles each. So, that's 20 minutes in the degritter. That's a minimum, okay? Absolute minimum. And obviously my, the cleaning time on the Lorrycraft, if I'm doing sort of, take it down the middle, 2 minutes cleaning with the pure groove. The L'Arc du Son is really only used on sort of quite dirty second-hand records where there's quite a bit of noise. Well, there are the occasional new records that have a bit of noise, which I'll use it on. But with the process, the vacuuming off, I mean, to cut a long story short, my complete process takes about an hour per record. Now, when you consider that Steve's $8 per LP, because he's doing them 8 records at a time in a much more, industrialized process, it makes his, service seem really not that bad. Obviously from the UK, I've got to send these back, but that's quite a big box of records to send back. And I'm sure that's going to cost me, 30 or 40 quid postage. So all in all, it's not really doable for me in the UK to use it. I haven't got that much money, but it would be, what I'm trying to do is achieve a similar level of quality of cleaning as what Steve can do there, using my kind of, home-baked processes. And whilst I'm using the Lorrycraft and the degritter, there are other options. Anyway, as I say, I know that HumminGuru have introduced, or just about to introduce, a new model, which will be interesting to see. And Degritter have got a new machine coming, which is going to be really interesting to see. It's quite expensive. I think it's going to be about sort of £5,000 or £6,000 stroke dollars, EU, euros, whatever. But it does address all of the issues that I've got, which is having, very large, very well filtered tanks, which is something that the KL Audio does. This, as soon as you do this, it becomes like a much more industrial machine and not something you just pop on the, on the worktop side. So this Fonoteek is basically, I think, is a floor standing machine. It looks like a large paper shredder to me. But it's a lot more programmable. I hope that you can kind of program up to sort of 15-20 minutes ultrasonic, but you can also program in a pre-wash with brushes, which will, do the kind of thing that I've been talking about here. So, remains to be seen. But if you can fill it with some sort of quite powerful cleaning solution like this, do a brush clean, drain all that out, the brushes then retract, and it becomes a pure ultrasonic machine, and give it a thorough pure distilled water ultrasonic rinsing. It could be a one-stop machine to rival my process, which is extremely lengthy and hands-on, or Steve's process, which is very easy because you're not doing it yourself, but costly and inconvenient because you've got to send your records off. So that will be an interesting machine to have a look at without a shadow of doubt. And I think that pretty much covers it. So in essence, I would say do clean your records. It's something is better than nothing, and even if you can't afford two, just buy one disco anti-stat or spin clean, and if you use something like this or their own fluid and don't rinse it off, it's still probably going to be better than not cleaning your record. And you could always do a batch of, say, you get a really nice drying rack with a disco anti-stat. So you could sort of do 8 records with their solution, put them in the drying rack, empty the thing out, fill it with distilled water, and then give all those 8 records a rinse in fresh distilled water. Definitely use distilled water, by the way. Never use tap water. They are the calcium deposits and mineral deposits in tap water will dry onto the record and actually make it sound worse than before you cleaned it. It really is the case. But from anything from that up to the full-on nutty process that I use, or of course if you've got the money and you can't be bothered, I do recommend Perfect Vinyl Forever. I'll put a link into their website as well in the description below. I think that's really all I've got to say. It's not, I'm not like trying to preach like I know everything. All I do know is I will question and challenge everything and experiment, and all that I'm talking to you about are the results of, full-on sort of unbiased, with as open mind, an open inquisitive mind as I can possibly have, experimentation. Okay, so hope you've enjoyed the video. Please click the thumbs up, like button, and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Cheers. Bye bye now. Bye.